All right, so Wilson, we're still talking fiscal management, and we've got Odilim Enwegbara, who is a development economist, joining us from our Abuja studios. Thank you so much, Odilim. Good morning. Let me take it off from where Wilson and I just, left off on those conversations. We're talking about the loophole in the oil and gas sector. New revelations have come up. The House of Representatives, as soon as it can put a committee together to look at all of these matters, will begin to look at this petrol for crude oil swap at the NNPC with 7 oil companies. And we're talking about fiscal management here.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we seem to have audio issues there, but Bosun, let me still come back to you here in the studio just before Mr. Enwegbara, gets back to us. We're talking about fiscal management. We're talking about the loopholes that we've seen in a very critical establishment of the economy, the NNPC, and it's something that has generated more than a few palpitations for people.
I think it's the entire oil and gas industry that we need to look at. Yes, NNPC looks like it's the poster boy for representing us in that space. So whether upstream or downstream, we need to look at it all. NNPC as a public institutions, a plethora of private companies doing retailing businesses, doing logistics, whatever there. So there's a need for a lot more transparency and accountability in the entire oil and gas sector. That's what the Extractive Industry Transparency International is all about. That was what the PIB ought to do. That's what, from the executive to the legislature to the judiciary, that was what they all ought to be. So it's all about including the Financial Reporting Council and the Central Bank and the Accountant and the Auditor General of the Federation. You see, when you put it on the ground, this is the backbone of our economy, and everybody is involved, one way or the other.
So these are issues that have come up. But you see, it's one thing for you to know the issues. It's another thing for you to have the political will to ensure that these issues are tackled. For instance, we've seen the loopholes. Is there a political will to plug them?
I'm not too sure we've found the loopholes. We've seen the result of how the loopholes have been the arbitrage that has been taken because of loopholes, like you have in the currencies market. You just do IFM, interbank on one hand, and what you get from the central bank, the usual Dutch auction and whatever, and some guys just take advantage of that loopholes, as it were, in the processes and practices, and take advantage of the naira, other currencies, convertibles relationship. The same thing in the oil sector. Once you don't have an accounting responsibility oversight that is transparent, that is strong and institutionalized, once you don't have that in place, you allow everybody within the public and the private sector to collaborate to rip off the country. That is where the key issue is. We know and we see figures coming out almost on a daily basis. Yes, but the point is we see that, but where are the loopholes? Now, let me talk about the one loophole that the immediate past the Trade Minister and Investment talked about, the metering. The Nigerian government set up meters at the loading bay where crude oil is loaded onto the vessels. But there are issues that these oil firms bring their own meters. They don't use the one by the Nigerian government, so we don't even know how much was loaded into the vessels to go out of the country in the first instance. So that's an issue. So the last administration, the Trade and Investment said, look, we want you to use the meter provided by the Nigerian government that is supervised by the DPR, the NNPC, and other agencies within the oil sector. That is in line with the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, that the central bank will be able to monitor, that the Bureau of Statistics will be able to monitor. So if an issue as simple as setting a meter, like when you want to buy petrol, everybody brings their own pump and the machine. Well, if you look,
Listen, that's not a very pretty picture.
No, hold on. Now you can imagine. Now that is just one side. So that is a lacuna, a gap that needs to be fixed.
So let's talk to Odilim Enwegbara, who I hear we've got him, back from our Abuja studios. Hello, Odilim. Let's quickly talk about this plugging of the loopholes. The conversation in the last couple of minutes has been on fiscal management and plugging of loopholes. Now, are there policies in place? Are policies crafted in a way that gives room for these loopholes?
Yes, as your colleague already said, we make policies in the country, ensuring there are loopholes in the policies so that people take advantage of the policies. And also, as we have already said, there has been a lack of political way to solve this problem. But now that we have Buhari, maybe we are going to revisit all these policies and strengthen them and ensure that there is enough oversight over how people deal or take advantage of the arbitrage in the system. So what I'm saying in essence is that we have to create a system where all that are the responsible stakeholders are given the opportunity to monitor, evaluate, and report to the public. So if we do that, I will assure you that all these loopholes will eventually go away.
So
now, talking about yes?
You talked about creating a system. So in creating a new system, is there any need to rewrite procedures or codes as we have it in the public service?
You know, that is actually not my field, but I will tell you that it is the lawmakers and the presidency that will look into this. Look at the loopholes in the system. As I said earlier, the loopholes, it's not that the laws are not there. The laws are created to be weak, especially the monitoring side of the laws. Evaluation have been made to be very weak. So if we can strengthen monitoring and the evaluation and reporting to the public, then it will be difficult for people to take advantage, and it will be difficult to create the arbitrage that people take advantage of. Like talking about Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria has not been doing its work. It's supposed to have been very proactive, just like a Fiscal Responsibility Commission, which is looking the other way, and the revenue generating agencies of government are just taking advantage of Section 21, Section 22, subsection 1, which says that it is only you are operating 80% of your operating surplus that you remit to a federal account. Now they move their operating cost to almost 100%, and then demand that there's nothing to remit to a federation account because the operating surplus is zero. So these are the things we have to look at. Some of these sections in the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and look at some of these sections in the NMPC Act, and look at some of these sections in the 2007 CBN Act, and strengthen them or amend some of the, or even cancel, remove some of those sections entirely, so that there will be transparency, so that the system will be out there for every Nigerian to see, and it will ensure that the leakages in the system and the wastages are actually removed, so that the economy will take off.
Well, you mentioned one of such agencies that is actually saddled with responsibilities of checking, you know, the parastatals and agencies, and that's the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. We know that in the last couple of months, there's been constant, you know, talk with this agency with regards bringing out a corporate code of governance for the public sector and the private sector, and it's supposed to have a public hearing in a couple of weeks. In what aspects do you think that they can show up their own responsibilities with regards what you mentioned?
You see, the problem with the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria is that it moved away from its responsibility and started attacking some agencies that maybe these agencies are not actually in the good books of Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria.
Do you know that for a certainty? Do you have facts on this particular allegations? Do you know that for a certainty that the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria has moved away from its responsibility of overseeing this, you know, of its oversight responsibilities and is attacking?
If you know that in April 2013 exactly, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria did a letter to the then President Jonathan, and saying that CBN was not doing its job properly, and that CBN has not reported its, has not done has not audited its book for years, and things like that. And then the recommendation was the CBN governor should be removed. So when a council or an agency of government does that, then you question the ulterior motive, because what you should have done is that insisting that the CBN books have not been audited, and leave the actions and what needs to be done in that regard to the president, not recommending that the CBN governor should be removed.
Okay,
Sometimes Nigerians don't know about this issue.
Odilim, we'll get back to that, when we have all sides, to comment on this issue. But let's go back to the issue that we're talking about, which is fiscal management. Now, do you think there's a need to tighten, or just before we continue on that one, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and continue the conversation.